Hello, everybody, and welcome back to What's the Word? Today is Thursday, December 3rd, 2020, and today the word comes from Matthew 6, verse 21 out of the Passion Translation, which reads, "For your heart will always pursue what you value as your treasure." And from that, let's get straight to my passion, which is sports. The college basketball season got started on the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, so let me do some catching up. Maryland has started their season 3-0 after getting wins over Old Dominion, Navy, and Mount St. Mary's. The 2019 Big Ten co-champions were picked to finish 11th, which is fourth from last in the conference, so a little bit of disrespect. Their start has been hot as they've won all three of their games by 18 points or more, and they're shooting the ball extremely well, with their game against Mount St. Mary's being the only time their three-point percentage dipped below 40%. Junior Eric Ayala is leading the team in scoring, averaging 16.3 points per game. Maryland has already had two games canceled due to COVID. Their December 1st matchup against Towson was canceled, and their game scheduled for tomorrow against George Mason was also canceled. But the good news for the Terps is that they found a replacement opponent, as they'll now take on St. Peter's at 3 p.m. In other Maryland news, basketball legend Len Bias is being inducted into the College Basketball Hall of Fame. Georgetown's start hasn't been as solid, as the Hoyas are 1-1, kicking off their season barely getting by UMBC, then losing to Navy. Their start, however, isn't too surprising, as they've been projected to finish last in the Big East after pretty much all their notable players transferred, including guard Mac McClung, who is now leading the 17th-ranked Texas Tech Red Raiders with 18 points per game. In college football, Maryland lost to the 12th-ranked Indiana Hoosiers 27-11. Maryland was clearly out of sync after missing 2 weeks of action. After an opening drive that found them in the red zone, quarterback Taulia Tagovailoa overthrew an open receiver in the end zone, forcing the Terps to settle for a field goal, which they'd ultimately miss. On their next drive, Taulia missed another touchdown opportunity as he threw behind another open receiver, which resulted in the first of his 3 interceptions on the day. Later in the game, he'd also find himself tackled in his own end zone, giving up a safety. The lone bright spot for the Terps was wide receiver Dante Demas Jr., who went for 114 yards and a touchdown on 6 receptions. Maryland had yet another game canceled due to COVID this week, as Michigan deals with positive COVID tests within their program. Next up for Maryland is a matchup against Rutgers December 12th, with the time to be determined. As for Navy, they lost a heartbreaker to Memphis 10-7. A missed field goal with 6 minutes and 11 seconds remaining in the game prevented Navy from tying the game at 10. Memphis would then chew the clock before punting, only leaving the midshipmen 12 seconds to try to make a miracle happen. Next up is a matchup with 24th-ranked Tulsa this weekend at 3:30 p.m. Before we move on, check out Navy's uniforms for their annual game against Army. On to the crazy week in the NFL. On Thanksgiving, the Washington football team defeated the Dallas Cowboys 41-16. The win gave Washington first place in the NFC East just until the weekend, as the New York Giants took over the lead with their win over the Cincinnati Bengals. Since this game was a week ago, I'm not going to get into all the details, but I will take a look at some plays and give you my analysis. First up is Logan Thomas and his trick play.
Here's Thomas looking to throw, and he does to McLaurin.
This was a beautiful play right here. Logan Thomas was a collegiate quarterback at Virginia Tech, so he has a pretty good arm. And I love what Washington has been doing over the past couple weeks, getting him involved a little bit more. He's done a quarterback sneak, he's done a read option, and he's improving as a tight end. In this game, he caught a touchdown, bodying a linebacker, and then blocking him off for the touchdown in the end zone. What a day it was for Antonio Gibson. 115 yards and 3 touchdowns. But let's do some analysis on a couple of his plays. He does a great job of making defenders miss in open space. Right here, Van Der Esch was the victim a few times, but he does a really good job of catching the ball, turning upfield, and making guys miss. Now the play that brought him into the national spotlight. First, I love this play because Alex Smith motions him over to the other side, opening up the defense, causing a little bit of confusion with the safety, and then Antonio Gibson takes it the rest of the way. Watch this little wave to the defender, and then he celebrates in the end zone by flexing his grill. Let's take another look at the wave right here, and I just love this guy. He's big time, and he's really doing the thing. 11 touchdowns, which is 3rd in the league right now, so potentially Rookie of the Year. Last but not least, wide receiver Terry McLaurin added another defensive highlight to his reel. Take a look here. Alex Smith throws off his back foot. He sees Terry crossing the formation, but it's a terrible throw. It's intercepted, and it looks like it's going to be returned for a touchdown just for Terry McLaurin to come out of nowhere and make the stop, adding another Julio Jones-esque reel to his defensive highlight. Next up for Washington, they'll travel to Pittsburgh to face the undefeated Steelers. This game, thanks to some rescheduling, will now be on Monday, December 7th at 5 p.m. Speaking of the Steelers and their rescheduling, they finally got their game in against Baltimore as they defeated the Ravens 14-19. RG3 started and struggled, botching an exchange with Gus Edwards, which Pittsburgh recovered, then throwing a pick six to cornerback Joe Hayden. He did run for 68 yards and a long of 39 before ultimately being benched midway through the 4th quarter. Enter quarterback Trace McSorley, who promptly threw a 70-yard touchdown to Marquise Hollywood Brown to keep Baltimore in the game. But as you can see from the rest of this highlight upcoming, the Ravens defense could not get the stop to give them one last chance.
And here's the play for the Ravens. They're going to bring pressure. Ben's going to put it up top, and it is. Is it held up? You can stop them, but Snell's just...
He's saying the Buffalo Bills are playing out of their minds right now, which they are.
3rd and 1, the Snell run.
To me, it looked like Baltimore got the stop right there, but the ruling on the field was a first down. Next up for Baltimore, they'll face the Dallas Cowboys Tuesday, December 8th at 8:05 p.m. Baltimore really needs to start getting some wins here. As you can see from the remaining schedule, they have a pretty favorable road, but at 6-5, they will need to probably win out. Now for the news that had everybody talking last night, as rumors finally became reality and the Washington Wizards traded John Wall and a 2023 lottery-protected pick to the Houston Rockets in exchange for Russell Westbrook. We heard these rumors heading into draft night, and they finally happened. Tommy Shepard, the Wizards GM, pretty much tried to downplay this was happening, saying that Washington had no talks in trading John and that John hadn't requested a trade, but the rumors were out there, and we finally get this. John, when asked about the rumors right before Thanksgiving at a charity event, pretty much just said no comment. But for him, he gets to reunite with his college teammate Boogie Cousins in Houston. So that's pretty good for him. I absolutely love John. I have nothing bad to say about him. Face of the franchise since being picked first overall in 2010. But as for Russell Westbrook, it took me some time to wrap my head around the addition. They're pretty much the same player. Russell Westbrook is 2 years older. John hasn't played in 2 years because of his Achilles tear. John is a better three-point shooter and reportedly had been working on his shot since that's really the only thing he could be doing while rehabbing. Russ is a pretty inefficient scorer, but obviously, he averaged a triple-double 2 seasons in a row back in Oklahoma City. But I don't know how much that is him being an absolutely great player or him just being a stat chaser. Russ is a cool guy, obviously a star in this league, but that fiery attitude, the stat chasing, you can average 10 assists, but not always be the person to put your teammates in the best position. Those assists come from him wanting the stat rather than being a pass first point guard. And those rebounds, he works for them sometimes, but a lot of the times he steals rebounds from his teammates. But he wanted to come to Washington, which is not something you hear all the time. He wanted to reunite with his old coach in Oklahoma City, Scott Brooks, and he wanted to team up with Brad Beal. And it's an interesting fit. Obviously, Brad is less ball dominant than James Harden was, so the two can probably coexist a little bit better. Russell Westbrook gets a team with some shooting around him. Last season, he had his most efficient stretch of his career after the Rockets traded away their center and played some small ball. So with some shooters like Brad Beal, Davis Bertans, Raul Neto, all three of our centers are pretty good three-point shooters. Thomas Bryant, Robin Lopez, and Mo Wagner. He gets some guys he can throw some lobs to. Brad Beal can finish the lob. Anthony Gill, one of our recent signings, he's a really good lob finisher. Rui Hachimura, he's good around the rim. So it'll definitely be worthwhile. It'll definitely be worth watching the Wizards this season, and I'm not going to hate too much on the addition. I wish John the best in Houston. He finally gets to do what he's been begging the Wizards to do, which is team up with Boogie Cousins. So that's really all I have to say on that. Thank you everybody for tuning in to another episode of What's the Word. God bless.